Darren Till calls out Sean Strickland and Al Iaquinta retires from the sport of MMA for good. I'm going to break down these two topics in today's MMA news reaction video, starting with Darren Till calling out Sean Strickland for his return fight to the UFC. Of course, this is a time where Darren Till needs to be very, very careful about what fights he takes next because he could lose his job here. I believe he's lost 4 out of his last 5. He's on another losing streak in his career, the second one of his career so far. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. Now, again, these are to the best guys in the middleweight division, so it's not like he's going to lose his job now or anything. He's still got another chance to get back in there, and honestly, even if he does lose to a guy like Sean Strickland or whoever he takes on next, I can still see the UFC giving him one more chance in the division because he's such a big name, and he's the kind of name that they wouldn't want to let go over to Bellator, because Darren Till, if he was at Bellator or some other promotion, could headline a card in Liverpool every single year for Bellator, and he would sell it out every single time just because of the name value that he has. So, even though his job's kind of on the line, I don't see him getting fired if he does lose again, but even still, he's lost 4 out of his last 5. He's on another 2-fight losing streak. Fair play, it's to Derek Brunson and Robert Whittaker, but still, he's on a 2-fight losing streak right now, and the Derek Brunson one, in my opinion, should have been a win if he was ever going to be any kind of champion or any kind of good contender in the middleweight division. Apparently, he showed up to that one with a bad knee, but now he's calling out Sean Strickland, and in all honesty, it sounds like a dream matchup, but there's some reasons as to why I don't think this fight's going to happen next. But this is a great matchup, and in all honesty, I don't want this to be a main event of a fight night, and that's why I kind of don't want this matchup, because as we all know, Darren Till's looking to return in March. He called out Sean Strickland for March, because obviously the UFC are planning on doing a London card in March next year. I believe Tom Aspinall's already been booked around that time as well, and Paddy Pimblett has mentioned he wants to fight in March as well, so obviously all these UK fighters are hearing some rumblings of a UK fight card. Of course, Jack Shaw from Wales just got signed in March against Umar Nurmagomedov, so they're definitely planning something with the UK fighters. It's probably going to be UFC Fight Night London, and Darren Till's probably going to be headlining that card as well, because he will sell out that arena, if they can even sell out the arena at that time. We'll see how it goes with this whole situation around the world, and if things do plan out, maybe they will have that London card. But Darren Till is looking to come back. He wants Sean Strickland, and in all honesty, it's a good matchup for him. It's a pretty good matchup for him. I just don't want it to be a main event of a fight night, because I want to see these two at a press conference. I want this to be like the feature fight of a pay-per-view card, if it is going to happen, because that's where you're going to get the most out of them. In a press conference, going back and forth at each other. Darren Till calling out Sean Strickland for some stuff. Sean Strickland calling out Darren Till for some stuff. They could both go back and forth non-stop, and it'd be a great time. I'm sure they could maybe do like a joint interview, a face-to-face situation, maybe even if they do a fight night main event like Darren Till did with Jorge Masvidal. A nice little round table face-to-face interview. But even still, I understand why Darren Till's calling out Sean Strickland. I do get it, because if you look at Sean Strickland's style and just the way he fights in general, you can see Darren Till having a really good chance against him. And I do believe if that fight was booked, Darren Till would be a slight favourite there, because although Sean Strickland's a dangerous contender and he's beaten great names like Uriah Hall, Christoph Jotko, Brendan Allen, which is a really underrated win, and he finished him in the second round as well. Although he's beaten some good names and he's dangerous, he's not like you don't look at Sean Strickland fighting someone and think to yourself, I don't know how I can beat this guy. Like, you can see a lot of ways maybe that Darren Till could beat Sean Strickland. Leg kicks is something that Sean Strickland's prone to. Maybe Darren Till could chop down his legs. Sean Strickland doesn't really have too much power for Darren Till either, so he's not going to have to worry too much about being KO'd on the feet, whereas in the first round with Brunson, there's always that chance he can land that one KO blow. Same situation with Whittaker, really. He also has power, but Sean Strickland might have some of the least power in MMA, especially in the middleweight division rankings right now. So that's something that Till doesn't have to worry about. Plus, Sean Strickland, of course, is a striker, so this is a great matchup for Darren Till. He's not going to have to worry about takedowns too much, which is how he lost against Derek Brunson. Even though he was doing good in the third round against Derek Brunson, he eventually lost it by giving up full mount, turning over and tapping immediately to a rear naked choke. But he's looking to come back. I get why he's calling out Sean Strickland. I'll give my prediction on who I believe will win that one. I feel like Darren Till would beat Sean Strickland. In a 5-rounder, I would worry, because maybe eventually Sean Strickland could walk him down and put some damage on him, but I would trust Darren Till to leg kick Sean Strickland quite a bit, stuff takedowns if Strickland ever shoots, and just land too many clean shots on Strickland and move too much. There's something that Darren Till's very, very good at, is making a fight extremely slow on the feet. He doesn't let people into range unless he wants them to be. Moves his feet very well, keeps distance very well. I feel like that would work very well against Strickland's style, because Strickland oftentimes doesn't cut off the cage. He'll follow people around, and he's quite happy to as well, because he doesn't really mind where he is in the cage. He's always going to be going forward against his opponent. It doesn't matter if his back's against a cage. He's just going to start walking forward and throwing damage anyway to get them to back up. So it's not like he really has too much crazy tactics. It's quite an achievable goal for Darren Till, and I do believe he'd probably beat Sean Strickland, maybe by decision. Maybe Strickland would take one of the later rounds, maybe round 5 or something like that. Strickland starts to get going, land some big shots on Darren Till, but overall I think Darren Till would chop at his legs, land some shots upstairs to get Strickland's respect. Strickland's head movement's not the best. I think Strickland's good, and he can beat a lot of styles of opponent. Like, he'd have a decent chance against Jack Hermansson because he's got such a great ground game himself. Sean Strickland, such great jiu-jitsu, and he'd also maybe walk down Hermansson on the feet. That's an achievable matchup, and I also believe, now I've said that Darren Till probably would beat Sean Strickland, is I don't think this fight's going to happen, because Jack Hermansson's called out Sean Strickland, and Jack Hermansson wants to fight in January, and Sean Strickland wants to fight in January. Let's not forget, Sean Strickland did not get injured for that fight with Luke Rockhold to fall through. Luke Rockhold got injured. Sean Strickland's ready to go. He's ready. He wants a fight. He wanted to fight this year. He couldn't get a fight this year. So he's looking at January next year, because I believe they're doing a card in his hometown or something like that. I don't even remember where it is. But in the January pay-per-view card, it's in his hometown. So Sean Strickland, Jack Hermansson on that January pay-per-view card. And I think the next opponent for Darren Till is probably going to be Uriah Hall instead. Another stand-up guy, a guy who just lost to Sean Strickland. And in all honesty, let's give Darren Till a guy coming off a loss. And further down the rankings, maybe. I get Sean Strickland is, like, not the biggest name, even though he does stir up quite a few headlines now and again with some of the stuff that he says. It's just, I don't know. I feel like the Uriah Hall fight makes way more sense, because they're both down the rankings. They're both coming off losses. They're both stand-up fighters. They can both be in the main event of a fight night anyway. Darren Till, Uriah Hall, main event of a fight night would be fine for me. And it also works out to both fight in March as well, because Strickland, as I said, wants to get in there as soon as he possibly can. He's actually made a point recently of being angry at Luke Rockhold because Rockhold's been wasting his time. That's how he said it. That's how he described the situation of Luke Rockhold pulling out. He just said, Rockhold's wasted 2 months of my fucking life and career. I wanted to get in there, and now I've been costed completely. I'll never sign a fight with Luke Rockhold again because he's wasted my time. That sounds like a guy who's urgent to get in there and fight and not want to wait another 4 months. To be honest, what's with this fucking planning a comeback 4 months from now shit? 4 months from now. I don't understand that. I get it's the London card and you've got to be on that London card, but 8 weeks is a training camp. Are you not in shape now to get into a training camp and go? Either way, you could fight maybe at the end of the year, maybe in January and then March. But, you know, UFC fighters are not the most active fighters in the world whatsoever, or anything in the world, active athletes in the world in general. But yeah, it's a good matchup. I like the idea of it. Darren Till, of course, said this on Believe You Me's podcast. He said, that was a tough loss to take. No disrespect to Derek. He was the better man on the night. Classic Darren Till of the better man on the night bullshit. But, sorry, not bullshit. Of course, maybe Derek was just a better man on the night. But something that Darren Till says every fucking time he loses. He was the better man on the night. It was a tough loss. I know I can win that fight easily on my best day, and that's just it. I know it sounds so cliche, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger and all these things. Fucking hell. They're just allowing for better things for me. I enjoy the setbacks. And, well, you enjoy the setbacks. Okay, interesting. Maybe he's into some pain or something. Maybe that's his kink. He gets off on that sort of destruction of his career. I enjoy the setbacks, and this is another setback. But I don't ever want to have another setback in my MMA career again. Okay, cool. I know my future looks very, very bright. Literally, against Robert Whittaker, I lost a fight on 1 takedown. No. You lost round 4 as well. And you lost round 5 on strike significantly at range before the takedown as well. But, you know, I get it. He's got to get himself in that mindset. And he can be better because we forget how young Darren Till is. But he has some weird opinions over what happened in those fights, in my opinion. But he knows where he's at. And people who know where I'm at. Or the haters. The haters are to soon turn to fans. It's just the way the game goes. So let's fight. And then he wants Sean Strickland as well, which he mentioned. He also called out Jared Cannonier, which makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever, because Cannonier's fighting Brunson in January, and if he wins, he's definitely going to get a title shot. But, you know, apparently that's something that he was interested in. However, he's also interested in a Sean Strickland fight, as he mentioned. One fight I really liked was Sean Strickland. They offered him as well. And I actually said to Sean, because I've seen him a few times in the UFC, I said, Sean, do you want to get it on at some point? Let's do it, because I think you're a great fighter. I think it would be a good fight. So let's listen. I'm still fighting the top, and that's how it is. Oh, fuck, I've been stabbed in my back. And he went on to rant about being stabbed in my back and left my daughter in Brazil. I don't know what the rest of this stuff is, but he's ranting about being stabbed in the back and leaving daughters in Brazil and the usual Darren Till stuff. I think he's breaking news. Darren Till's had another fucking daughter. Okay, cool. But that's it. That's the story. Darren Till's interested in fighting Sean Strickland. I reckon he could beat Sean Strickland. I don't think that's the fight that's going to happen next, because Strickland wants to go back in there, and it's not going to happen. But it's an interesting take, and maybe Strickland does take the fight, because this would be a huge matchup for Sean Strickland to get some name value. If he had a press conference with Darren Till or any kind of promo of Darren Till, people would start to sort of rally behind Strickland's personality, especially if he beat Darren Till afterwards. But other than that, in the news, Al Iaquinta has taken on, he hasn't taken on anything, he's taken on retirement after losing to Bobby Green. He's called it quits on an MMA career, and honestly, he's had a good MMA career. Doesn't need to continue fighting whatsoever. He's an older guy. He's not young anymore. He's got to go and move on. He's already got another job. He's a part-time fighter anyway. He always has been. He's made what? How much has he made in his entire career? Supposedly, he's made $1,061,000 in his entire career. And this is a guy who was inactive for a couple of years. I mean, he took a couple of years off, I believe, after the... Let me find out when he took it a couple of years off. He beat Masvidal, took 2 years off, came back against Sanchez, fought Nurmagomedov, and then took some more time off after a couple of fights, like the May fight against Donald Cerrone, and then he had Hooker fight that he lost afterwards, and he took some more time off. Another 2 years off. Wow, he fought Dan Hooker in October of 2019. Time fucking flies in life. It worries me. I'm going to die soon. But Bobby Green, he fought last, got beaten in the first round. Something I found interesting about this is basically he admitted to giving up, which is always a sign that maybe you should retire now, because, you know, that's not a good sign to hear from an MMA fighter, and it's also not a good sign to hear someone say that and then re-sign them for another fight in the UFC, because once you hear that someone's, like, actually giving up in fights according to themselves, it's not quite okay with the betting companies, I'm sure, because that could lead to some controversy there. If someone has him in their parlay and he just fucking calls it quits on the stall, that could be a bit of a problem. But either way, he said that's the way to go out, being finished in the first round. I mean, obviously you want to go out on a win, but this shit's not worth it, dude. You saw Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje fight. Those guys, they beat the hell out of each other. That wasn't worth it. They got paid quite a bit, though. More than you, Al Iaquinta. That's a lot of money they earned. But still, I know what he means. To be honest with you, I don't know. It was the first fight I really gave up in. He didn't knock me unconscious. True. He did drop him, though, really badly and rock him badly. And I kind of turned and I covered up. And he did. I was still conscious. I knew what I was doing, but I just kind of wanted out. That was it. I realised that he hit me hard. It probably was not going to be a good night for me. I was not confident in my preparation, in my cardio, in my wrestling. And that's just how he calls it quits. Yeah. He says, these guys are training hard. These guys are training 3 times a day, 2 times a day. Really hard. My body just can't hold up to that anymore. That's the first time in my career ever that I gave up in a fight. I mean, fair play, you know. It's fair play, you know. The guy went 5 rounds with Khabib. He's not. If he had to give up, he would have given up against Khabib at some point in that fight. He went 5 rounds and beat Kevin Lee after getting his nose busted in the first round and bleeding everywhere. Like, he's been through wars in his career. He went out there against Donald Cerrone, even whilst getting dropped a couple of times in the earlier rounds, and kept the pressure on as the rounds went on. I like Al Iaquinta. I'm glad he's made some money in his career. He just got a nice little paycheck of $84,000 to send him off for his retirement against Bobby Green. Not the best paycheck, don't get me wrong, but still a decent paycheck for a guy that not many people outside of real MMA fans have heard of, other than the guy that showed up on short notice to fight Khabib. But he always have that record. He'll always have that on record. He went 5 rounds with Khabib. He's the only person in a championship fight, I believe, that's ever been 5 rounds with Khabib, and the only person in general who's been 5 rounds with Khabib as well, because Khabib never had a main event. So that's something he can hold on to in his career. He was the tough guy that never went out there and never tapped against Khabib, never got TKO'd or anything like that. So credit to Al Iaquinta. Good career. I kind of saw this coming because he's got his real estate business. He can use this to put towards that and make more money from that. And he seems to just not be interested in fighting in general anyway. And he started a podcast. And when people starting podcasts in their careers, like, it's usually a worrying sign that they're not all in anyway. So I'm glad Al Iaquinta's had a good career. He's calling it quits. He hasn't had too much brain damage. It's not like he had a bunch of KO losses. He took this KO loss against Bobby Green and just said, fuck it, I'm out. So credit to him, you know. Al Iaquinta calling it quits while he's still young, while he's still got some brain cells. But I will admit that I've been listening to Al Iaquinta's podcast. And I've noticed a speech difference in Al Iaquinta. And I don't know when that's from, because it was before the Bobby Green fight, and that's the only KO that he's had that I can remember, in all honesty. KO loss that he's had anyway. He took a lot of damage against Dan Hooker and got dropped there, and a lot of damage against Donald Cerrone, but I have noticed that Al Iaquinta's speech has started to get a little bit mumbly and slurry when he speaks, and it's a little bit worrying at times, so I'm glad that he's calling it quits. He doesn't need the damage. He has another job. Good for him. A couple other stories that have been going on. Dada 5000 is suing Triller. Or Dada 5000's company is suing Triller or something like that because they're using the rings that they're using. Some fucking bullshit. Cynthia Calvillo told everyone to talk their shit about her quitting on the stall. And one other thing. Oh, Miesha Tate says she's going to want a title shot if she wins. And she says that she's Nunes's biggest competition, sorry. Which is very, very confusing to say because you lost to Nunes really, really easily. And to say that you're her best competition when, you know, she literally destroyed you in a round and you had no answer for anything whatsoever. And that was before you took the hiatus from the sport. I don't know if she's going to get a title shot if she wins, but I definitely want to see her maybe against Jermaine Durandamy if she wins. Winner gets a title shot, something like that. I don't mind. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Oh, and watch out for Adrian Yanez this weekend. Thought I'd just chuck that in there because he's a savage and I think he's going to win. Toodle pip.